we've heard and talked a lot about nonfiction books and wrote nonfiction. Today you'll hear a new nonfiction book and write a nonfiction book of your own. We can share these books when we get back into our classroom. This is the cover of our book, Fire Trucks. The author is Valerie Bowden. Here's the title page, Fire Trucks. And here is the table of contents. I bet you can all tell me what the table of contents is for. That's right, the table of contents tells us where we can find specific information in the book that we're reading. So if we want to just learn about fire trucks in action, we would go to page 13. That's again the table of contents. Let's begin our story. Sometimes people need help. They might be hurt or they might be lost. When people need help putting out a fire truck comes to help them. This is the caption. That means it tells a little bit about the photograph. Fire trucks zoom down the street to reach fires quickly. A fire truck is an emergency vehicle. It is used to put out fires. Even though fire trucks are big, they can go very fast. Fire trucks looked very different 400 years ago. The first fire trucks were used about 400 years ago. They were tanks of water pulled by people or by horses. About 100 years ago, people built the first fire trucks with motors. Today, most fire trucks are red, yellow, or green. They have flashing lights and loud sirens. The lights and sirens warn other drivers to move out of the way. Friends, what have you learned about fire trucks so far? So now this is the time in room 204 where I'd ask you to turn and talk. But because we're not in room 204 right now, I'll ask you to think about it yourself. What have you learned about fire trucks so far? And maybe whisper what you've learned to your shoulder, or if you have a stuffy like I have, you could whisper in their ear what you've learned about fire trucks so far. I've learned that fire trucks are red sometimes. Just like that. Oops. Different kinds of fire trucks carry different things. Ladder trucks have tall ladders attached to the top. Pumper trucks have pumps for spraying water. Tanker trucks have huge tanks filled with water. When there is a fire, an alarm goes off at the fire station. The firefighters put on their protective clothes and jump into their fire trucks. One firefighter drives each truck. Other firefighters sit to or behind the driver. A dispatcher tells the firefighters where to go. Friends, notice on this page that there are some bold words in red. That means they really want you to pay attention to those words. This word is protective. That means the firefighters wear gear to keep them safe. And this word is dispatcher. A dispatcher is someone that a person having an emergency calls to let another person know that they need help. When the fire truck gets to the fire, some firefighters hook up the hoses. They can hook up the hoses to a fire hydrant or to a tank on the pumper or tanker truck. The firefighters begin spraying water on the fire. Friends, what do you know about fire trucks that you didn't know before reading this story? How do you think the author found out so much information about fire trucks? Some firefighters climb ladders to put out fires in very tall buildings. They can rescue people trapped in buildings too. Firefighters wear masks to help them breathe inside burning buildings. After a fire is out, the firefighters drive the fire trucks back to the station. They wash the trucks and check their gear. They make sure the fire trucks are ready for the next emergency. Early fire trucks. The first fire trucks were just big tanks of water. People had to pump the water by hand to get it out of the tank. Then people made pumps that were powered by steam. These pumps worked faster. They were more powerful too. They could spray water out of hoses. That's the end of our story today, friends, but I'd like to show you our glossary. Our glossary is for words that we might not understand, and some of those words we saw in red earlier in the book. Dispatcher is a person whose job is to get phone calls about emergencies and then send them out rescue vehicles. Emergency is something bad that happens suddenly, such as a car accident or fire. A fire hydrant is a water pipe that sticks out of the ground. Firefighters can attach a hose to it. Motors are machines that make things such as cars move. Protective means it's able to keep people safe. So friends, today I want us to think about writing about one of our favorite objects. I could write about a fire truck because I've learned so much about this book through this book, but what I think I'll write about is my favorite blanket. Now what could I write about this object? Let me see. What could I write about this favorite blanket of mine? While I'm thinking, I think I'll start to write. First, I'm going to start with my name, Miss Spring. I'm going to start my sentence with a capital letter to show it's the beginning of a sentence. And then I'm going to use a finger space so people can understand my words. This book is about my favorite blanket. I'm ending my sentence with a period because I'm done with my first statement. Now let's think about this. What could I write about this blanket here? I think it's bright blue and it has fluffy tassels on the end. And what shape is this? It looks like a rectangle to me. This book is about my favorite blanket. My blanket is big and shaped like a rectangle. I'm excited about how my blanket is shaped, so I'm going to put an exclamation mark at the end of my sentence to show that I'm excited about the shape of my blanket. I'm going to start the next sentence with a capital letter. Let me see. It is soft and let's use a detail. What kind of blue is this? Is this a dark blue or a bright blue? I think it's a bright blue, so I'm going to say bright because that makes my writing more juicy and interesting to read. Bright blue. It also has fluffy tassels. snuggle up in my blanket. So now I'll end with a period. I've started, well, let's check, friends. Have I started every sentence with a capital letter and ended with a punctuation mark? Capital letter, punctuation, capital. It looks like I've done a good job with that. So here's the beginning of my writing. This book is about my favorite blanket. My blanket is big and shaped like a rectangle. It is soft and bright blue. It also has fluffy tassels. I feel warm when I snuggle up in my blanket. Friends, this is the beginning of my book all about my favorite blanket. What I'm wondering is why do you think it's helpful to examine, that means to look closely at something before you write about it? I want you to think about that question and look closely at something, examine something that you might want to write about. But for now, what I'd like you to do is write about anything you want. And if you want to learn more about fire trucks, you can visit these websites, enchantedlearning.com or Sparky the Fire Dog at sparkythefiredog.org. Thank you. I miss you.